I love listening to music. And while doing these year in review videos are a blast, my 10 best songs of the year's list is absolutely my favorite of them all. Because it all comes down to individual tracks. Albums are made of songs, EPs are made of songs, compilations are a collection of songs, remixes were once original singles, songs. Everything boils down to singular songs. I am continually still amazed, though, by how much goodness can be packed into such a relatively short amount of time, and how a just 3-minute track can wildly change my emotional state and energy tank. So let's just jump into things right away and break down my picks for my top 10 EDM songs of 2025. The longer and longer that I've done this channel, the more I have recognized that 1, achieving broad commercial appeal is an incredibly difficult task, and 2, creating a masterpiece of quality and style is an incredibly difficult task. But ultimately, 3, doing both at the same time is next to impossible. It's just so hard to create a global sensation that appeals to so many people while also creating something truly unique and creative. But when you hit the nail on the head, you might as well take your own victory lap.
Could have been 30, could have been a G. Should have never snitched. Why took it to police? Now they're looking at you funny when you walk.
Fred again teams up with Skepta and Plaqueboymax for what is easily the biggest hits in both the EDM and hip hop spaces in 2025. So much so that they actually re-released the song 5 more times, adding new artists and verses with each new release, to end up more than doubling what was originally a 2-minute and 45-second song into an almost 6-minute heater with arguably way too many cooks in the kitchen at the end. But while this new victory lap was solid, all of them were pretty solid, I think the original just reigned supreme.
If you see her with me, she's taken.
Blending together these styles of grime, glitch hop, UK hip hop, and UK bass, Victory Lap is simply one of Fred again's best songs to date. As a musician, Fred is constantly bouncing around the overarching styles of electronic and hip hop music, but on this track in particular, he's managed to find the perfect mixture of both.
I smoke loud, but I never get lousy. Black Swan, Darren Aronofsky.
While Skepta and Plaqueboymax do a fantastic job in their own right, they bring the heat to a track that's already on fire. Sampling Doechii and Rico Nasty's Swamp pitches for the intro, those vocals and accompanying chops have now become quite synonymous and iconic to this track, and will instantly get a crowd up and moving as soon as they hear it. And it's that disgusting, dirty, deep bass line that lays the true foundation upon which the rest of the song was built. I just love when the bigger artists of the EDM space, like Fred again, represent the holistic genre in a very positive way. We've heard way too many senseless and boring mega hits from the EDM big guys like David Guetta, Steve Aoki, and Marshmello. And it's just so refreshing to hear good EDM in the limelight again. I've been a huge fan of EDM for well over a decade now, and a majority of that love was founded on and formed alongside the label Monstercat. With almost 4,500 total releases in the label's almost now 15 years of existence, I am not ashamed to admit that I have listened to every single one of their releases multiple times. And throughout 2025, no one is holding that torch of quality releases any more than Bad Computer.
If you feel the way I do.
Simply put, Bad Computer's Connected is one of my favorite songs of his yet. Featuring Gold on vocals, this track is a brilliant back and forth of punchy electro house and complextro sound design with an indie hip hop leaning aesthetic that turns the whole thing into an instant earworm. I've historically not been a real fan of short tracks, but at 2 minutes and 27 seconds in length, I legitimately cannot think of something I would change about the song in any capacity. Maybe other than the fact that I just want more of it. Bad Computer has such a unique style of electro house production that has been, quite frankly, keeping the genre alive for me. There really isn't anyone out there making songs like this with such a high bar for excellence and quality in the electro house space, especially in the mixing department. I went through a phase about 10 years ago where I was exclusively listening to music that was a fusion of indie and electronic, and upon hearing Connected for the first time, I felt instantly transported back to that era and made me long to find more stuff like this. This song just feels like it was made for me personally, almost as if Bad Computer somehow hacked into my brain and laid out all the things that I love about music. In 2025, I made a real effort to listen to more emerging artists in the space and broaden my horizons of who and what I listen to. And I would say I did a pretty solid job of that. Almost too good, because one of my favorite emerging artists of the year went into a full rebrand and became more than just an emerging artist. But regardless of the semantics of it, this is just ultimately one of my favorite songs of the year.
Please don't stop the
runThis, formerly known as Splitter, has seen an incredible uptick in 2025 in terms of quality production and more commercial success, and I'm so glad things are working out for him. And to me, the apex of his year was the release of his infectious, self-proclaimed festival garage tune in Set It Off, which sees a cacophony of popular samples and groovy melodies. Inspired by the sounds of modern bass music from the likes of ISOxo and Noctu, runThis has such a playful and energetic soundscape that balances a more specifically underground style of production with all those iconic pop music samples, mainly dominated by Rihanna's Please Don't Stop the Music. Garage in particular has been a genre I have fallen in love with in the last couple years, and runThis turns the genre seemingly on its head for a festival-induced banger. This is just one of those tracks with so much going on in every aspect that it forces you to listen to this thing front to back, and again, and again, and again. Set It Off to me is the perfect balance of the soundscape of an underground producer, the samples and energy of what makes EDM so unique as a holistic genre, and something that honors the trends of the year. And speaking of garage, let's keep riding that gravy train. Or in this case, we're actually riding Half-Blood.
I'm with you.
I'm pretty much a fan of everything Skybreak does. He is such a brilliant young producer that has mainly embraced the vibrant side of color bass and melodic dubstep, more so in the past couple years, but dove headfirst into a whole new era in 2025 with Half-Blood, as he merges the sounds of his American and British roots. This new era saw a lot more experimentation from the guy, and nothing else quite hit like Street Garden did for me. Played out as a more typical UK garage tune in terms of song structure and style, Street Garden takes all that I love about the genre and just frankly turns it up to 11. Written through the lens of a recent, at the time, breakup in his life, this track has a narrative that's actually trying to say something, and it's paired with a solid vocal and overall stellar production of snappy percussion work and crispy yet soft lead synth melodies. This was just one of those tracks that really stuck with me all year. It's not the most explosive or grand of singles, but that's part of what made me fall in love with it. The whole album itself landed within my 10 best EDM albums of the year's list, so you know the whole thing is great, and even then, this song was an easy highlight for me. When the year came to a close and I looked back at all that 2025 had to offer, I continually found myself surprised by the songs and projects that topped these lists. I'm not typically a hardstyle and trance enjoyer, yet an EP of those genres topped that list. And here I find myself once again challenging my biases, and this time, it's with Tear Out? Space Laces had an incredible 2025 that was gilded off the back of his Voltage 4 album mixtape DJ set hybrid project, which I believe to be his best project to date. Even though each of those 32 songs from that project were incredible in their own rights, I think it actually was his April single In This Way that was truly his standout song of the year. More than anything, Space Laces has this innate ability to turn what is typically a hard and abrasive genre into something more palatable for a wider audience, and balance all that chaos with the mixing and mastering that is quite simply the best you'll find in the industry. I really commend Space Laces for giving us some variety with each of these drops. Any one of them itself could have been repeated a second time and released as a solo song, and it would have ate. Yet Space Laces chooses to set up a buffet for all of us to enjoy. A taster of catchy vocal chops, an appetizer of bassline crunch, main course of a gunshot synth, and a blaring dessert. Space Laces was a master chef with all that he cooked up in 2025 for what is easily the biggest year of his career.
I mean, not a Red Lobster, but an Olive Garden a couple blocks away. I have an Olive Garden like 0.4 miles away.
Getting a collaborative track from two icons of any genre is a potentially scary thing. So often do we as listeners put our own, often unjust, expectations onto a track based off the name value alone. We have a certain expectation of what a track is supposed to sound like in our heads, and I'd say it's a 50-50 shot of whether or not that actually comes to fruition. And already within a year of insane collaborations, this one was just undoubtedly an all-timer. Skrillex and ISOxo teamed up for what was easily the biggest and best dubstep track of the year in Fuze. Well, Skrillex's DJ mix style album was over 46 minutes of honoring the legacy of his past and ushering in a new future. He somehow manages to do all of that again, but this time packaged into a singular 3-minute track. Starting with a shockingly beautiful minute-long intro of serene piano, Skrillex takes the melody of Hazel's theme from Quest for Fire and strips it down even more for this atmospheric opening. And then right around that minute mark, we start the run-up into a fantastic melding of Skrillex's core bro-step sound with some of the more snappy trap-like elements from ISOxo that make for an explosion of EDM goodness. I'm still shocked that these two managed to meld together these sounds that put Skrillex and EDM as a whole on the map in the music industry, with the modern aesthetics and trends of the best that bass music has to offer in 2025. This might just be one of the greatest collaborations in EDM's history. Pretty much every time I do these year in review videos, there's always a track or two that leans more into EDM adjacent territory and could be argued on or off landing on a list like this. And ultimately, it comes down to my own selfish desire for how much I want to talk about each specific song. And in this case, I really want to talk about this song. I was blown away by FKA Twigs' album EDM, and even more so by its release single in Striptease. This song boils down the core of what this record is trying to convey on a narrative front, as well as give a little taste of all that she has to offer production-wise. Striptease is one of those tracks that really can't be defined by any one genre. It's got art pop, UK bass, alternative R&B, trance, jungle, Jersey club, wave, trap, all packaged into a singular 5-minute odyssey. I love how there are so many distinct movements and moments on this track that each have their own sonic identity. You've got that trappy R&B intro with a pounding bass line and wild vocal cadences that is constantly paired with a more laid-back production where Twigs really turns a vocal corner to give a peaceful and disarming hook, where she expresses that her striptease isn't just a physical one, but her opening up on an emotional, spiritual, and metaphysical front. Then just about halfway through the song, it takes an almost complete 180 with this glitched out interlude that quickly morphs into the smoothest and lightest jungle production you'll ever hear as she closes out the tune with a grand operatic vocal performance. There is so much to unpack in just these 5 minutes here that even after talking about the song for all that I have, I don't feel like I've truly done it justice. I would be willing to bet that of all the songs on this list, this would be the one that the majority of you have likely not heard, so please, please, go give this thing a listen. List videos like these can sometimes lend themselves to tricky instances where we are right in the middle of something potentially massive, but just don't know what we're getting yet. Not often do album rollouts place themselves neatly into a singular calendar year. As the year comes and goes, we get a taste of what's to come, but haven't quite seen the whole picture yet. And sometimes you don't even need the whole picture to enjoy what you've already got. Without any real proper announcement yet, Do It is seemingly the second single from what is likely to be Underscore's third studio album. And if things continue like this, we'll be seeing more of her on next year's list. But for now, let's gush about this fantastic tune that is Do It. On a narrative front, Underscores is addressing her struggles with both romantic relationships and those with her fans, and how being a public figure creates an unwanted power dynamic. Longing for anonymity in those relationships, and if they can't get that, she just can't do it. On the production side of things, this is one of the catchiest electropop songs I think I've ever heard. From the get-go, this thing is infectious and heady and brimming with life. That lead bouncy metallic synth is the real driving factor of this track, and its ever-presence throughout the runtime of this thing keeps the track constantly moving. If you don't know me, and I don't know you. I love how much play there is between the vocals and production elements here, where each hit of that bass line is emphasized by the vocal cadence to give it a real visceral gut punch. And as Underscores classically does, there is just a sprinkling and smattering of playful vocal chops, chimes, whips, hits, and smacks that fill what would be the relatively empty gaps between each beat. What are your prospects? Do you make your own cash? Do you lie? I'm so incredibly excited for this assumed Underscores album that will likely drop in 2026. If it is indeed real, and considering what we've already got with these first two singles in Do It and Music, I'd be willing to bet that we'll see Underscores on these next lists in 2026. I have created a self-imposed rule for these lists where I include only one song per artist. These videos to me would be much more boring if it was just full of like 2 to 3 albums only and nothing else. I like to spread the love around as much as I can. But sometimes it's really hard to choose which song I love the most from a given album that I know will land on a list. And sometimes that choice is an easy one. I don't know. I'm feeling that choice in the way. When it's all said and done, the first single in that choice from Fox Stevenson's magnificent album Sunk Cost Fallacy is just the perfect representation of the album as a whole, as well as my favorite song of his ever. Fox has such a unique blend of drum and bass, alt-rock, and indie pop that is so uniquely Fox. And that choice is the best of all of that combined. So everybody might look upon me, show them something better than I might be force-feeding. Narratively speaking, that choice sees Fox address his inner critic and the constant worry of how you'll be perceived by others. He shares his struggle of feeling like he's a different person to the world than he feels inside, and ultimately comes to the conclusion that everyone must feel that sort of same way to some extent, as we all daily make that choice to hide who we are or who we're not. And on the flip side of things, the production very much speaks for itself. Foundationally a drum and bass song, there are plenty of alt-rock and indie pop aesthetics throughout this track that go from the non-stop bass guitar to the layered vocals to the midsection breakdown to that triumphant finale. Fox Stevenson had a ridiculous 2025, and it all started with the release of That Choice, as it ushered him into what was undoubtedly his strongest, most dominant year as a musician. There was so much incredible music that came out in 2025, so I wanted to highlight some honorable mentions while still sticking to that one song per artist rule. This time around though, I'm going to specifically highlight 5 EDM tracks that just missed out on this list, as well as my favorite 5 non-EDM tracks of the year, all in alphabetical order. Crafting this list is always a bit of an interesting challenge because I love all these songs for so many different reasons, and I honestly feel like a number of these songs on this list could have been at number 1 and I'd be happy, but at the end of the day, there really was just one song that deserves to be here. I'll be honest and say that I was a little late to the Ninajirachi fan club. It wasn't until late December that I really latched onto this album, so I sort of feel like I'm making up for lost time. While this entire record is absolutely amazing, Infohazard was the clear standout for me, which surprised me a fair amount because of my typical indifference for trance. But my goodness, this track is nectar for the ears. Infohazard is a track that speaks to every part of who I am as a human and music listener. This song is rooted in early 2000s nostalgia of what it's like to grow up alongside the internet on a narrative front. It was inspired by the sounds of early to mid 2010s EDM that I fell in love with, and has a grand anthemic song structure that I absolutely adore. But don't let the bright, cheery vocals and uplifting trance distract you from the fact that this song is about watching a snuff film. Yes, indeed, the title of this track, Infohazard, is a direct reference to the dark side of the internet that contains and showcases some of the ugliest sides of who we are as human beings. At a young age, Nina was exposed to a video of someone actually dying, a snuff film, and this track expresses how that imagery has haunted her and erased some of her innocence, yet ultimately still loves her computer and what it offers. A tale and sentiment that I too share with Nina as we grew up in the same early age of the internet.
In my dream, I saw him, the man without a head.
I absolutely adore when a song like this can tackle such a heavy narrative, yet display it in such an opposing way. If you remove the vocals from this track, the production here seems so blissful and beautiful, and you wouldn't know at all the baggage that this track carries. Ninajirachi has seen a historic rise in 2025, and she's quickly forming into one of my favorite producers out there. I'm so excited to hear what the future holds for her, and I'm thankful for all that she's already supplied. But that's my list for the top 10 EDM songs of 2025. And that is it for Year in Review in 2025. All of the lists are done. But there's still one more thing to do. Next Saturday, January 31st at 2 p.m. PST, I'm going to be starting the 2025 Bowtied Awards, actually the 6th annual, where we will be community voting and looking at what we believe as a whole community are the best albums, songs, artwork, meme, genre, a whole bunch of different things. So if you want to be a part of that, check out the live stream somewhere on the YouTube channel here. And if this is a week has passed and you're watching back this video and it's already happened, then go check out the VOD and see how different that was from my list. But thanks for sticking around with me this whole year. I mean, this was just such a fantastic year for EDM in 2025, and I'm genuinely so excited to hear what we're gonna get in 2026, although I'm not sure anything will beat 2025 for a long time. But that being said, I'm Dakota from Bowtied Media, and I'll see you guys in another video.